Okay, it will be Ronan to start this game. Players just putting the tiles away. If we have anyone new to Scrabble watching or new to tournament Scrabble watching, you might be wondering why the tiles are in uh, squares of 5 by 5. That is simply so that we can see that there are all 100 tiles are there. And that's just an easy way of viewing that all 100 tiles are there. So the tiles are going into the bag now, and hopefully we will be underway shortly. Okay, as I say, we'll be rolling for the start. Long tournament, long way to go. 5-3 is a decent position to be in at this point. Both players on that 5-3 record, both hoping to go to 6-3 here. So Ronan is going to start us off. Okay, so Ronan now has the opening rack. He's got a blank. He also has the cue though, so I don't think there is going to be a bonus available here. Yes, it's a frustrating rack because he cannot use the cue without wasting the blank, which I don't think would be the right move to do. Quackle's suggesting a couple of exchanges here as perhaps the best option. Quackle likes exchange cue. Doesn't seem unreasonable to me with that rack. It's a very strong rack. It's going to bonus with a multitude of floaters. Sorry, not floaters, but multitude of other tiles other than the Q would you could bonus with that rack. QG is another possible change. Not a lot in it between those two, I would have said. I think I would be changing here. One tile or two. I'd probably change the Q and the G. Don't really like that combination. Don't really like the G as a tile too much. It's a hard decision though. You feel like you want to get a scoring move on the board early. You could take 46 points for Quare using use the blank as a U, play Quare, double letter, double word combination. That would work. But my feeling is you would want to hold on to that blank. That's my own personal feeling. First move of the game. I mean, you are just handing the start to your opponent, basically. It's not. I generally don't view it as losing a turn when I change on the first move. Quare is lined up. Just looking at it again. I hope that wasn't Quared lined up there because that would not be allowed. Yeah, taking some time on this, Ronan, and I don't think that's an unfair thing to do. You want to get a good, solid first move in. He does just need to be a little bit aware that he's off the clock because you want to have some of that time left for later in the game. Seems a hard decision. I think I would probably have changed by now. I was doing a little bit of research on Reading this morning, and apparently it's famous for beer and bricks as well as festivals. They make bricks in Reading. So these are all things I've found out just by covering this tournament. So yeah, UK Open, big tournament, first major of the year. 100 players, over 100 players, I believe, at the tournament, which is okay. So we have a play by the looks of it. It looks as though Ronan has exchanged the cue, and we now move over to Jack. So it doesn't look to me like there's a bonus for Jack there. Quackle confirms that. So we're looking for as as good a move as we can here. Quackle suggests F there. Jack is going with hen quite quickly by the looks of it, playing down the board. You can, of course, play across the board or down. I am one of these players who doesn't really like it when my opponent plays down the board. It just puts me off slightly. So, looking at what Ronan has, there are bonuses available here. He could play Redamage or Gadarene, both for 80 points, across to the E of Hen. Looks like he's playing a 7 here. He is playing Gradate, I would suggest that is. We could have a confirmation on what the blank is. Looks like that probably is grade 8. Doesn't seem there is another option there. That'll be 72 points. Jack now wishes that G was in another place because he would have Gelutong if it was. It's a nice word, which I think I've played on at least one occasion. But no bonus failed him. He has the second blank, so at least we're going to get a blank each in this game, which is kind of fair. Options for Jack. He could play Joel for 32 down the side of grade 8, creating Odd and La. Jolted for 32 to the D of grade 8 is also an option. I quite like Joel. It's a stronger rack leave, keeping that TEN blanket. It's yeah, it's a stronger rack leave in that it makes it less volatile next time. If you keep N blank, you could pick up any kind of combination of letters from the bag. Picking up 5 tiles, you're not quite sure what you're getting. If you keep TEN blank, you are likely to have a stronger rack next time. We do have confirmation that that blank is a T. It's the only thing it could have been really, unless Jack accepted a phony. Jack is going to play now. I would think this is Joel coming down. It is Joel. So that is Jack's best move according to Quackle. Not seeing an immediate bonus reply here for Ronan. He has some sort of 20-ish scoring moves. When players are choosing their moves, quite often they will be looking for those hot spots. The most obvious hotspot at the moment is that triple word at the top of the board. That seems to be where Ronan's best moves are coming from. PHI, GHI in that spot, also creating GI, look quite good. Phage and pen, another option that Quackle likes. I quite like PHI here. I would struggle a bit with the AGEE leave. I'd be worrying about picking up more vowels. Yeah, whatever he does here, most of his best plays here leave him a little bit vowel heavy. He would just need to trust to good fortune that he's not going to pick more vowels. Yeah, so taking a little bit of time over this one. At the moment, Jack has a big time advantage over Ronan. That could be important at the end of the game. This is the second year back for the UK Open after COVID. It took a while to get it going again, and thanks to James Birdie for doing that. He's doing a great job of running it. Ronan has played GHI, which Crackle thinks is the third best play from what I can see. We move back to Jack, who could be bonusing this time. Let's just have a little check on that. Oh, there is one bonus available. It makes the blank a P. I won't tell you straight away what it is, but with the blank as a P, there are 7-letter words available for Jack. Yeah, so he'll probably be cycling through all the things that he might be able to get out of this rack. I spotted, notedly, that was the first thing that jumped out to me from that rack, but that doesn't play on this board. There is just one playable bonus. Having a think about this, he probably is cycling through those tiles, like making the blank. What does blank A do? What does blank B do? What does blank C do? Just going through those options. You then have to factor in that you could be using a floater. So not only do you look for a 7, what does blank B do? What does blank C do? What does blank D do? Etc. You're looking for 8s with that G, for example. What happens with that G if I make the blank an 8, etc. Cycling through those options and hopefully coming up with a playable word. I'm on this chat. Looking over at Ronan's rack, I believe he has a 7 on his, and interestingly, it plays in the same spot as Jack's plays. So this could be a pivotal move in this game. Yeah. As I said at the start, Ronan was the most improved player in the UK last year. His opponent, Jack Moran, very solid, very strong player. As I say, he's not yet won a major, but he's been thereabouts. He's been right up the top of that leaderboard in big tournaments. This is an exciting game. Jack's taking some time here. He wants to make sure he gets this right. He is coming across with this. So I'm assuming that is going to be a P. He's putting it in the 9-timer spot, which is interesting. That P is between those two triple words. He could have played down the board as well. He's put it, that would also have opened a 9-timer. Yeah, it's pointed, goes down, I'm presuming pointed for 74 points. And we are back to Ronan. Looks like a challenge on this. Hopefully we'll get that confirmed in a minute, but there's a challenge on that. So that would be 79 points with the 5 points. And we are now back to Ronan. 7-letter word on his rack, which is peerage. That will not play, but there is one playable bonus. Just give a moment for people to have a think about what that might be. Yeah, so peerage doesn't play, which will be so the first thing that Ronan will be feeling there will be a bit of frustration about that. He needs to get on with it and have a look. And as I say, there is an 8. And that 8 plays on the N of pointed. Little clue for you there in looking for that one. And Ronan is coming down with that bonus. Perigean for 74. This is putting him ahead 170 to 123. We move back to Jack. So an exchange of bonuses there. Another challenge. So that's another extra 5 points for Perigean. The first thing I thought of when I saw Jack's rack, which I suppose is quite a strange thing to think about, was if there was an L and a J next to each other on the board, which there would not possibly be, he could play Cabalju, Kabeljow, but that's obviously not going to happen. He is playing Kapow. For 45. Seems a very, very solid move. Quackle likes that as the best play that he has got. We now pass back to Ronan. So a bit of a clunky rack for Ronan there. By clunky, I mean consonants. I mean awkward consonants, Fs, Vs. Not good combinations of letters there. You'd be looking to get rid of those tiles. Vrot for 24, quite a strange word, but a very familiar word to most Scrabble players. Vrot from C1 would be an option to get rid of some of those clunky tiles. For less experienced players, certain tiles are considered better than others. F and V are both considered to be tiles you would want to get rid of fairly quickly. Because they will hold you up. They're not much use to you most of the time. Ronan plays Vrot. He's playing a very, very solid game at the moment, Ronan. Hitting a lot of top plays. Jack's rack is a little bit tricky. First thing I can see there is Bapu. Quite like that as an equity play. Probably not the best play there. He has 40 point play. 44 point play. It's a little bit of a difficult spot. It would be Pieta down the side of Op, making Op, Tet, and Raja. That spot there with the R and the JA close to each other. That is a nice little hotspot. I would like to think that both players will be looking at that. But it's the sort of thing you could miss because it is slightly tucked away there. Another high scoring play would be Beta in the same spot. I prefer Pieta, I think, because the leave off Beta is PIU, which is that IU combination isn't particularly nice. So I think I prefer Pieta for that reason. Up by for 30 would leave AITE, which are nice bonus letters, but vowel heavy, and it's a big sacrifice of score. Habitu from 2H is another option. Clears out a lot of tiles. So options here for Jack, good scoring options that are likely to put him back in the lead. big claim to fame of the UK Open is it was a tournament that was attended by Nigel Richards for many years. He hasn't been back post-COVID, but he regularly attended this tournament. I think he may only have missed it once in the years it was running prior to COVID. So he was a big draw to that tournament for other players. I think people used to turn up to play Nigel. But having said that, we are Nigel this year, and we are into 3 figures in the number of players that have signed up for this year's UK Open. Jack is playing beta. Quackle has that as the number 3 move. It's a very, very solid play. And Jack leads by 11. Back to Ronan. He has only 1 vowel. It's genuinely not very useful. He has some scoring plays. He has some scoring tiles. He's got the W, the X, the F. If you use them in the right place, they will score. Quackle likes Orphy, AWFY, which I believe means awfully. Possibly in Scottish dialect. I might just check that. Yeah. So AWFI meaning awfully or extremely. And I'm not going to do the accent, but it would be an awfully good play if Ronan were to make that one. Other options, potentially Wox for 27 alongside Kapow. My feeling here is if I were Ronan, I would be wanting to get rid of the F, the W, and the X, but that's not going to happen all in one go. He's going to have to get rid of those a couple at a time. Something like Flax or Falx, down from also creating GIF. Flax and Falx creating GIF with the GI that's already on the board. Those to me feel like good options because they score reasonably well. They're also getting rid of 2 of those clunky tiles. Wox looks to be the play. That one's pretty good. Ronan is 16 ahead, and we move back to Jack. Jack does not have a bonus. He looks to be playing Umpy for 31. Again, this is very, very solid play. Quackle likes that as the best play there. Humpy's for 40 from the H would be his highest scoring option, but Umpy is considered the best play because it holds the S. A familiar friend for Ronan, although I'm not sure how much of a friend he feels it is. The Q is back on Ronan's rack. He does have an option to ditch it this time with Caddy, QADI, onto the I of Perigean. His best move, though, apparently is Yond at C10 for 26. I mean, I think that's close. I mean, you know, you get different leave evaluators. It depends what software you're using. So a leave evaluator is something that tells you like the flat values of a tile. So how many points it might be worth sacrificing to keep a certain tile on your rack. Generally, with the Q, it might be worth sacrificing 10 points. Some players might say more, some might say yes. So sorry, some might say less, but it generally might be worth sacrificing 10 points to get rid of the Q. So playing Caddy for 16 is arguably as good as playing Yond for 26 because that Q is awkward. It's going to decrease your bonus potential, especially if you don't have a U. Although there are 3 U's to come. So Yond might not be a disastrous play here because you've got a fair chance of picking the U. Ronan has gone for Fath at the top of the board. That's a reasonably solid play. It's number 3 after Yond and Yold on Quackle's suggestions. We are back to Jack. So Ronan has a narrow advantage. Jack has some reasonably nice looking tiles, but no bonus. The second eye would be a concern for me. The duplicate S means that I would be less worried about playing an S now. So if I could score reasonably using an S, I would now, and just hold on to the other one. And Quackle tends to agree with me. Quackle quite likes SIC on the end of Kapow for 22. There's nothing really high scoring here. Cyric in the same spot seems to be the highest scoring play. But Quackle favours that less, because although it gets 4 points more, it's getting rid of the E and the R, which are very nice tiles to hold on to. Playing SIC and keeping EIRS is a very strong play. Jack just taking a little bit of time. He'll be wanting to make sure that there's no bonus that's escaping him here. And a player of Jack's level, I suspect, I don't know for certain, but I suspect he probably has a good knowledge of 9s as well as 7s and 8s. So he might just be taking a moment to look at that EN, which looks very enticing in the middle of the board there. Possibly even the TE of gradated, sorry, just to make sure that there's nothing there that it could possibly play over. You know, I'm very lucky sitting where I'm sitting because I have perfect knowledge. I know that Jack doesn't have any playable bonus here because I've got computer simulation in front of me telling me that he hasn't. If I was sitting where Jack's sitting, I would be far from sure that I wasn't missing something here. He's going to play Stet and Sick. So this is a less strong move. It's than Sick for 22 on the end of Kapow. Perhaps he's a little uncertain of whether Kapow takes an S or not. It is kind of an exclamation, and a lot of exclamations do not take an S on the end of them. So, looks like they're just checking some scores here. Yeah. Just taking a few times to check that the scores are correct. It will be Ronan's turn in a moment. And this time, Ronan does play Yond. He's still holding on to that cue and keeping some clunky tiles, but he's played Yond, which is Quackle's suggestion as the best play. Eager to see what 3 tiles Jack has got with this very strong leave that he has left himself. I would make Jack favourite in this game at the moment, even though he's 23 points behind. Ronan has terrible tiles. Jack seems to have picked some quite nice ones here. So he has picked BEN to go with the tiles that you already had. I'm looking at Quackle with disbelief at the moment. I almost cannot believe that Jack hasn't drawn into a bonus there. If he had a Z available to him, he would have Zeb Rhymes, but unfortunately no Z there. Yeah, no 7 here, no playable 8. So Jack looking at this. This is one of those situations where I'd be very tempted to fish here. I feel like the rack is so strong without the BE that I might consider playing BE for 12 at the top of the board at F1. It doesn't score a lot of points, but there is nothing here that really does. You could play Neb for 15 at J4, but I prefer taking 3 less points and keeping the N on the rack. This is one of the situations where I would fish here. For anyone who's not familiar with Scrabble terminology, fishing basically means sacrificing a little bit of score to keep a very strong rack. Some players do that too often. You find, particularly in lower divisions or in club Scrabble, you get a lot of players who will score low for several turns in succession, and by doing that, they are limiting their chances of winning the game. There's a time and a place to fish, and I think this is the time and place. Jack has played Neb for 10, which is slightly fewer points than B at the top would have been. Anyway, we are now looking at Ronan's rack. It's terrible. I would go so far as to say that. I think it's probably a changing rack. I don't think he should hold. I don't think there's anything worth playing here. Quackle agrees. The top 15 plays I can see on Quackle all suggest a change of some sort. And Ronan seems to have picked the best of those options, change FLQV. I might have been tempted to change FLQVR. It's pretty close, I think. I mean, he could still end up constant and heavy next time. Jack has 11 7-letter words on his rack. I won't cycle through all of them, but there are a lot of words available from this rack. Shall I go for a few of them? Starny, steering, retains, retinas, retina, anestry. There's multiple choices here. There is one that scores more than the others on this board, but actually, Quackle doesn't like that as a play. Yeah, steering playing down the side of La scores the most points, but it leaves a heavy scoring opportunity into the triple word score, which is why Quackle doesn't like it. Jack is playing what Quackle suggests to be the best move. He's playing steering, making Jips, It, and E for 70 points. That catapults him now into a 57-point lead. Ronan has not had the best draw in the world. Keeping SRT, you'd probably like better than this in terms of a pickup. Yeah, it's Scrabble predominantly is a game of maths and logic. However, certain things seem to happen that I can't explain using maths and logic, and that is that when you use the Q for a low score, or when you change the Q, you almost always seem to pick up a U the next turn. I'm not quite sure how that works. Ronan has played Zen and Zen, which is a reasonably strong play. He gets 24 for that. Quackle quite liked Res for 15 to get rid of the duplicate R's, to get rid of one of those R's. There is a 7-letter word on Jack's rack. It's not going to play anywhere. He's got it lined up to show us that he knows it. I did A-level biology. A vacuole is a part of a plant cell. It's a large kind of cavity, I suppose, in the middle of the plant cell holding liquid. My A level biology was a long time ago. I couldn't really tell you what's in that liquid that it's holding, but vacuole, yeah, is definitely a biology word. Nowhere to play it. Tricky. It's one of those racks where if you can't play the bonus, it's a tricky rack. Not many really high scoring opportunities. Alcove for 22 is probably worth looking at. Quackle quite likes ovule, another biological word down from the end of steering. Jack just having a little think about this. It's an interesting one. He doesn't have anywhere to play vacuole, and it's tricky. The VC combination is awkward. The VU combination is awkward. Ovule looks reasonable here. To me, I would say Ovule's probably the best move. Another move that Quackle is suggesting is Tub and UN, just using the U. Jack is taking advantage of the E hook on steering. He is going to play Levo. Is an interesting one. Quackle doesn't have that as a suggestion. I don't really like the leave of that very much. So that is an interesting play, and I think it's the first play that that Jack has made. I think that is not one of the absolute top plays that Quackle is suggesting. He's played a very, very solid game, taking Quackle's best suggestion on most of his plays. So back to Ronan. Ronan has no bonus. He will be wanting to get rid of U. He'll be wanting to get rid of the duplicate R. He could play the second, his second, in fact, VR word of the game. He could play Varao for 14, which would leave him with a pretty strong leave of RIST. There is nothing that scores particularly heavily here. So you probably, most players will probably be thinking, can't score much. I need to leave myself the best opportunity for the next turn. The best opportunity for the next turn is that RIST. So Vrao looks good to me. He might be slightly concerned that there are 3 eyes to come. So he may not want to keep. I think ideally you might want to play URIO here, but there's nowhere to play those 4 tiles. I think Vrao is the best option. UR is the play. Okay, that's reasonable. Second best play according to Quackle. That just leaves us that just leaves a less volatile rack. So there's less that can go wrong with that play, hopefully. Jack is now struggling a little bit with his rack. He's going to play quite quickly. I think he's going to play Koyao. Yep, Koyao coming down. 20 points. Nice word to get rid of some vowels. Jack is a little bit low on time. So he's probably wanting to play a couple of quick moves to get him towards, so that he's got a little bit of time for the end game if he needs it. So Ronan has no bonus here. He has some scoring plays. He has distro for 33. Which would be really, really volatile. It would play on the end of Koyao. It would blow the board open, leaving a number of powerful bonus lanes open. Possibility of a 9 time with 2 triple words on the right hand side. Also opens up the triple word score at the bottom middle. Ronan is behind. He does need to keep the board open. He does need a big bonus, probably. So distro could be a good option. Quackle likes that as an option. Or he could do similar to what he did on the last go. He could play DI for 11, leaving ROIST on his rack, which would be a strong rack lead, likely to lead to a bonus next go. However, on this board, opportunities for bonuses are beginning to become a little bit limited. Yond does not take an S extension on the end of it. So in terms of bonuses on this board, you're looking at playing on the end of Koyao. 9-letter word with the GU at the top, which seems unlikely. That distro play would blow the board open. DI would make the rack less volatile. Would probably, it's almost like what I would call a catch-22 situation. That but it's a situation where, in order to create bonus lanes, he has to break up the rack. But if he doesn't break up the rack, he doesn't create those opportunities. And it's not an easy decision. Which is why we're seeing him take some time. Getting to the point of the game where I personally, if I was playing, if I was playing and I was 60 points behind at this point in the game, there would be some doubt creeping in as to whether I'm going to win this game, certainly. And I'd be thinking, whatever I do is probably going to be the wrong thing here. Ronan has played ID for 9. It's quite high up on Quackle's suggestions, but it's only giving a 10% chance of winning the game. That is the situation that Ronan finds himself in. Jack is playing quickly. He's playing QIS on the end of Koyao, taking out that lane. There is a challenge here on Koyao's. That's going to be correct. This is a big score, and it takes out a bonus lane. That could be the game-winning play right there, because Jack is now 102 ahead by my reckoning. So Ronan has bonuses. He has Estriol, which will play on the end of ID. That's his highest scoring play. You can play IDE or you can play IDS. Both of those score 78. You cannot play Toilers or Loiters, which are the 2 anagrams of Estriol. So he's going to go with Estriol. It's possibly not going to be enough. 78 points. It will not get him level. He's still going to be 20 odd points behind. Jack has lined up Molinette on his rack. It does not play, but he's showing us his word knowledge once again, having a bonus lined up on his rack. And Molinette is apparently a stick for whipping chocolate. I've known that word for a lot of years, and I've never ever looked at the definition before. I think that's one thing that non-Scrabble players find quite frustrating about tournament Scrabble players, is that very often there are words that we know and play as a matter of course that we have no idea of the meaning of. So Jack has Mo or Emo using that triple letter score above the eye of Estriol. That's what Quackle suggests his best move is. He will know what Ronan has on his rack. He will know that if he plays a valid move, he's going to win this game. With the 3 tiles that Ronan has, he cannot score enough to catch up the deficit here. And 25 for MOE or Emo is going to win this game. There are, in fact, any number of moves that are going to win this game. So it looks like Jack is moving on to 6-3. It's been a good game. They've had a blank each, which has been so there was equity there. They've played the best moves the majority of the time, or played moves that Quackle has had in the top 5 on simulation most of the time. The most questionable move of the game was probably Jack's Levo. I'm not sure what the rationale behind that one was, but that seems to be the most questionable move of the game. But the rest of the game has been played reasonably solidly. Sometimes in a game you can point out a move that swung the game, or a move that was pivotal. I'm not really seeing that in this game. I wouldn't be able to pick out a standout play that's done that. I think the main thing that has decided this game is those clunky racks that Ronan had in the middle, where he was forced to change. He had a number of turns where he couldn't score heavily. Perhaps if he ditched the queue earlier, we might have had a different result. But you know, that wasn't a given. It wasn't an error there in not ditching that queue. Okay, so Jack played Emo. Ronan went for FAU there as a word, which is not a word. So he loses a turn. That will be frustrating. It will cost him a little bit of spread, and as Joseph was talking about in the last game, spread can be very important. So Jack playing Lun, creating a spot for Ronan to play AUF to finish the game. So Jack takes the game by a score of 417 to 458. I'm hoping I'm getting the maths right on that, because obviously Quackle does a different thing at the end of the game to what we do in the ABSP. We add and subtract at the end of the game, rather than add double. But yeah, spread of 37 by my reckoning, unless there's any scoring errors